Justice League #1. Scott Snyder, Jim Chung on the art. Well, I guess first of all, just if we liked it or not is probably the first place to start. How did people feel about it?
So much to talk about it. Like, it's a heavy book. Like,
I just straight up loved it. I knew I was into this from the second panel when it has the caption of 85,000 years from now on the second panel. I was like, okay, I'm in for this.
Because of who was in the panel, or just because of the concept of looking at
just
the
the
future?
Concept and Snyder. Just it is just go big or go home. That's what he does, and when he does that at its best, that's his work is his strongest.
Here's my thing with my problem with Snyder is he sets the stakes so high, and then I never feel like there's a great resolution. Like, look at what we just read, No Justice. Like, the resolution was fine, but I feel like with the stakes that he had set up, it could have been better.
That's fair, but I feel he's got a lot more time to play with this compared to
No Justice.
We knew, okay, we got 4 issues, whereas this, okay, we can play with this over time.
I just feel like I like his beginnings more than his endings, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. Even just his Batman and run in general. The beginning, very, very good. By the time you get to the end, not so much.
It's funny because he put out his first YouTube video this week, and I've listened to about half of it, and it very much is talking about beginnings. That's the focus of this video is what he tries to do in a beginning, and he says his aim, especially an opening line, but also an opening scene, is to set the aim for the entire story. Is to tell you what the story is about in the dialogue of that opening scene. If you read into it, it should be there. So I think it's interesting to look at this opening page, especially with that perspective, and see what we think the story is going to be about as a whole.
Well, you instantly get the scope of it all. Like, we already kind of have the scope from Metal with the Dark Multiverse, and then and No Justice. And this just continues that scale that it goes from, 85,000 years in the future to 85,000 years in the past. Like, it's this huge thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what I got from this is it's, about accepting and embracing the inevitable, right? That's this thing is just, it's there. And, we have, especially the bottom panel where they're talking about, can we stop it? And they're like, no, we just can't. It's not up to us. And I think that'll be a large thematic part of this run, especially given
Connor
what we
loved
did
it
with Manhunter in this issue.
Yeah, Pete, how'd you feel?
I liked it quite a bit. I have some Snyder concerns about his exposition and maybe just throwing big ideas out there without really kind of building to them. Sometimes with his big ideas, I feel like he throws them out, and I'm meant to just kind of accept them for what they are, as opposed to actually feeling like he builds to them. And I think there's potential going through the book that could become a problem down the line. Right now, what I like about it is the focus on John Jones. I like the stuff with Lex. I like that it does feel big, although arguably at times it's too big. Because I do think there's a problem in comic books with superhero stories where everything's the biggest threat ever. That's bigger than everything that's been before. And here we go again. It's the new biggest thing.
That. But given that this is, leading on from Metal and this is the fallout from all that stuff, it makes sense to be big. Right?
No, I get that. And you're getting this big grand Justice League. We haven't had a big grand Justice League in how long,
Yeah.
So,
I feel like the whole point of that Metal epilogue was, no, we're dealing with something even bigger than we thought. And then, and this is the book that's delivering that. So I kind of feel like, of course, it's going to be huge.
I know, it makes sense, like there's context for it in the story, but at the same time, Metal, big dark thing we don't understand. No Justice, this is even bigger. End of No Justice, this is going to be even bigger in Justice League. So, I mean, even in and of itself, those three things building on, it just keeps getting bigger.
Yeah.
And I think there's a risk of it just sort of becoming numb to it after a while. So okay, right.
I get that, but like we just had 2 years of really small scope Justice League, so I'm ready for something big. Personally.
No, we didn't. One of the main complaints we had of Brian Hitch's Justice League is that he was doing too many big things, just one after the other.
What I say by that is, I mean, it had no weight to it. Where it didn't. It felt even when I was reading it, even though it was a big idea, but it had nothing to it.
Well, yeah, it was weightless, but that doesn't mean it wasn't supposed to feel big, though. It was still supposed to feel like that.
But that's the key thing. It's supposed to, but it didn't. So
Yeah.
it didn't feel big. At no point
see,
did it feel big.
I feel like I'm on the midpoint between you two because I really like this issue, but I didn't love it. But I didn't love it for the reasons that Pete didn't either. But the stuff that I loved were, the like, what does this mean for the DCU now? That
Yeah.
the source wall's broken open, and we see, 85,000 years in the future, we see Morrison's Justice League 1,000,000. Like,
Then we see the
I
Monitor.
think they're called the Justice Legion. Right? We see the Monitor in the past.
Yeah.
We see Commandy 5,000 years in the future. You get the Quintessence, which was a thing that came out of Kingdom Come. So, and for those that don't know, that's the panel with Ganthet and Hera replacing Zeus because Zeus is dead. Phantom Stranger, Shazam, and who am I forgetting? There's 5. Oh, Highfather. Although Highfather's supposed to be dead too. So like,
Is he?
I don't know, New God stuff. The New Gods are starting to get to the Speed Force where it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't need.
Let's not debate it. Let's just leave it. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move on with our lives. No, like,
Anyways, we
I
get all
like-
these.
I was gonna say
Go ahead.
I like that it is. It's saying okay, it's going to be this big, but I think my feeling of skepticism with some of the like, oh, it's the biggest thing ever, and look at it's spying all this in the Justice League. I appreciate how ingrained it is in DC mythology. Like, Snyder's pulling shit from all over the place here. He's really embracing the history of the DCU, and I do love that. But at the same time, this reminds me a little bit of the start of Hickman's Avengers.
Uh-oh.
Don't get too worried, Matt. Don't get too worried. But it's definitely going for a similar scope. It's going for a similar feeling to that. Connor's giving me this.
I
really
never read
stare.
it, so I've got no opinion.
Me neither. I remember our friend Stuart had done an explanation write-up of what was going on. And even with the explanation of what was going on, it still went over my head. So I don't feel like... I feel Snyder is much more... He doesn't get as sciencey as
sure.
Hickman or Morrison.
When I say it reminds me, that's not a worry that it's going to read the same or it's going to be the similar quality or whatever. That's not what I'm getting at. I guess what I'm really getting at is that most big Justice League and Avengers stories ultimately have very big similarities, almost no matter what, right?
Then you have this thing shot out of the source wall, right?
Yeah, that's what's
And it's
happening here,
big
by the way.
fiery thing.
Some big fiery Phoenix Force-esque thing is shot out the source wall.
Yeah, so I feel like Snyder's like, oh man, too bad DC doesn't have a thing like the Phoenix Force that can impact a telepath in this way. Wait a minute, why don't we? So he decided to make his own. And I feel like that works with John. Like, the scenes of his, him remembering, or I guess the flashbacks, were deep down tragic. And I feel like Snyder really has a handle on that part. There's other parts where I was just like, okay, I get it. They're fighting the Neanderthals.
It's funny because I don't want to say I actually really liked the book. Like I had a lot of fun reading it. It feels big.
Yeah.
I'm glad the characters all feel. I assume Matt enjoyed the making fun of Batman double page
Of course.
layout of let's try and do our Batman voices and Wonder Woman dropping the I'm the goddamn Wonder Woman.
Yep.
Which it was funny.
I thought it was weird that goddamn was censored.
Well, so I read that as if it was effing, because I feel like Diana would take it up a notch.
As did
Yeah.
I, and then someone pointed out it was a callback to
Yeah.
All-Star Batman and Robin. I went, oh, it's goddamn. That makes
No,
more sense.
that was the thing. I read it as
Yeah.
effing at first, then I was like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't they use goddamn? Because obviously
Right.
that was the first thing that popped into my head. And then I'm like, is it supposed to be goddamn? But I'm like, they wouldn't censor that, surely.
No, see, this is the thing. I don't think they censor it because they have to censor goddamn. I think the joke is that goddamn Batman's such a stupid phrase that everyone wants to forget that it's been censored. I think that's the joke.
Snyder's-
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, because Snyder's poking the dead body here with that. So
Yeah.
Which is good because despite how bat-gaudy it got at the end of his run, I never felt like he was interested in writing Batman as the Bat God. So that's why the last sections of his run really disappoint me. So the fact that he's willing to, to poke fun at here, and then Superman saying he does the best Bruce impersonation, I just love.
It was all the telepath stuff, bro. He's like, no, he doesn't. Yes, he does. He so does. And it's even Aquaman sounds excited about. Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He does. Come on now.
Yeah.
Before we get to that page, though, we have the Hall of Justice is open, and we get this third-person narration talking
Yes.
about it. And we see that they've got like the display of all these various costumes in the front of the hall, including a lot of characters, that's confirming, oh yeah, these people have been on the Justice League at some point. Firestorm is there, Vibe is there, like we got all sorts of characters. Interesting. It's almost like we're just going to ignore the fact that the New 52 happened.
Is that a Ted Cord Blue Beetle in the back?
I think it is.
Yeah, it looks like it to me.
Yeah, and it's just funny. I feel like more and more in Rebirth, we're just like, yeah, technically this stuff shouldn't have all happened because the New 52 said it's only been 5 years and all the rest of it. But we're just, Jean was on the Justice League. All these Justice League teams happened.
Just screw it. It exists.
Yeah. I feel like, I also feel like it's Star Wars where Han Solo goes, it happened. It's true, all of it. I feel that's just DC continuity right now. Speed Force.
Except Superboy, right?
Oh, yeah. The Speed Force, the Legion, the Justice Society. It's true. All of it.
The book's very Jean-focused, though. It's very, very much from Jean's perspective. There's a lot of Jean floating in space as he's kind of telepathically linking all the League members together and like having them all kind of, cooperate, because they're all fighting these Neanderthals who, it's like, Vandal Savage is behind this, and they're kind of figuring that out. And then, so here's something ballsy they do in the first issue. They blow up the moon. The moon is gone.
Why not?
Well, the moon controls the tides.
Yes.
Connor, so like,
there's some problems with this.
Yeah, whatever. We'll figure something out.
But not only did they blow up the moon, but Jean became a moon nesting dragon creature.
Quonar.
Yeah.
A Quonar. It's an extinct creature.
And it looks beautiful.
I was like, oh man.
Yeah. Also, dope. Batman had bombs in the moon for some reason.
Well, it was his moon base, right? So it was in case it got compromised and he needed to destroy it. It was the one we. Was it back in Superman that we had? It was
Superman, yeah.
But no, that came from Tomasi's Batman and Robin.
Oh, was it in that as well? I can't
remember.
Yeah. So I guess if I'm going to, again, if I say like, stuff's just too big without any kind of build up to it being this big, I think them having to blow up the moon, okay, I'll let that go. It's when like, the crust from the Earth is all starting to like, come apart and it's going to float into space. I'm like, okay, this is really big. Like, this is like super big.
I think you get for me at least, I think you get away with being that big in a first issue. Like it's. Because if you're not, you either have to build up to it and reveal, and get to this at some point in your story, or you start with this. You start with the huge thing and then go from there. I think both work as an approach. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just a bit too big, though. It's a bit too big and fantastical. And I say that because, again, I was enjoying this issue a lot. But when I got to that page and that's when they said that was happening. So Jean's above the Earth and we see like all the bits of land that seemingly are starting to break away. And I'm like, all I could think about was like how much destruction's happening on the ground right now.
Yeah.
Right, I don't know. It's too big. It's too just sort of thrown out there, and it took me out of the book for a minute, and I just kind of okay, I'll just accept it and roll with it. It's a big comic booky story, right? I'll just go with it. But it's the sort of thing where I have to stop for a second, and go, okay, I just have to accept this and move on. I did that a couple of times in this. But I like all the characters interacting. Jean becoming fearful and having these memories of his mother and child dying are pretty emotional. I like how it focuses on Jean, the Round Table, and it becomes this thing. And this is what I really liked about the issue, is that it becomes this ideological debate as they realise, wait, so Vandal Savage was trying to move the Earth out of the way because this thing is coming for us. It's arriving in 3 minutes, and the rest of the issue from the Justice League's perspective is sitting around the table. And it's all telepathically in John's head, but they're sitting around the table. And it's them debating whether or not, we don't know what this thing is, it's unknown. It could be an extinction level event that's going to kill the planet and everyone on it, or it could be something that's here to help because the multiverse is dying.
Yeah. It's a great concept, isn't it? Okay, well, is this something we go with, or we want to fight? Yeah. Because it's kind of completely unknown at this point.
And for me, that's where the book really excels and gets interesting, because now it's like, okay, now let's talk about this difficult choice. Like, how do we choose to have faith in it, or do we act out of fear and try and stop it?
Yeah. So I read an interview with Snyder, and there's a reason why he went back, and it's not the Injustice League. It's the Legion of Doom, because he was drawn to the concept of the original origin of the word doom, which is tied to fate. And it wasn't so much like oh, it's going to be dark and bad, but it's just like, this is your fate. That's what you have to accept. And that's what happened with Luther when he was exposed to the entropy. Is Luther's brain was wrapped around it in a different way. Or no, it was entropy that was tied to the word fate, and then that became the word doom. And I like where he tells Vandal Savage, you chose justice. Because I always kind of like the idea of Vandal Savage is this, yeah, he was a world conqueror, but a lot like Ra's al Ghul, he was doing it to save the Earth from humans, because he's kind of seen it all. And so he went about it in the way they always go about it, about right and wrong, when it's not about right and wrong, it's about just accepting it, what it is. Like, it's a very Yoda kind of concept, right? Like, there is no try. You either do it or you don't. Like, it's very binary. So Luther's on that binary page where this is what we're doing, and he's assembled his crew. Oh, why you'd add Joker to that is beyond me. Especially,
I think that's going to be something really interesting to find out.
Yeah, that's the part where if you're just building a team, because the rest of them I can understand. Grodd would be very useful, Sinestro would be very useful, and you can speak sense to them. Cheetah, you can speak some sense to. Black Manta, you can speak some sense to. Joker's the wild card. Like,
he is, yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, what's interesting, though, is that Lex is aware that Savage knows something about what's behind the Source Vault. There's a secret, and he knows about it. And we see that Lex has taken over Savage's base. He's, he bought it up from under him. And he mentions that he put a monster in the basement. And we see, like, there's just one small panel of someone with these giant chains holding him in place. Do we have any guesses as to who this is in the basement?
No.
I don't know. I don't know what Snyder's pulling from here.
No.
There's a green tinge to everything, and I think that's the clue. I just don't know what. Like, again, if it were Marvel, I would say that's a Hulk, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm almost getting, like, it looks like, rather than a green tinge, I'm getting the idea of a light shining down from above, which reminds me of, like, criminals from Krypton with when they're getting, like, sentenced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting kind of that vibe from it, but I mean, I don't know. It's and he says he's got some alien technology, or future technology rather, in the attic. And again, Savage is like, there's no attic, what are you talking about? So, Lex has outsmarted him in a number of ways, as expected with Lex. John Stewart, who's not actually at the table, he's actually out on the front lines. He's going to fire, what was he got? An omniversal wormhole. He's going to fire at the thing.
So I feel like Snyder tries to get too cute. This is where I get pulled out of stuff. And I'm just like, all right, I mean, that's a cool image. Like, Chung did great drawing that massive cannon.
I think it really speaks to, John's architectural stuff is always, it's all really mechanical and really well built, and you can see just all the parts on this cannon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those little moments that Matt mentioned earlier. Just, out of nowhere, we've got an omniversal wormhole. It was kind of like back in his Batman run, where all of a sudden Batman just had miniature red suns in his gloves so he could fight Superman. I'm like, alright, okay, whatever.
Okay. It didn't bother me, personally.
It's those little things where it takes these things for granted, and I feel like, no, you earn something ridiculous like that. You build to it.
So, I just kind of wish that we got more Vandal Savage, right? Before all of this, I wish there was a way that we could have had him longer before Lex shows up, like, to understand what he knows, what's coming, and why he was trying to move the Earth out of the way, and like, those are all fun little seeds I wish we could have gotten more of. But I understand why he does what he does here.
I get this approach. This approach is no, it's a mystery, and we'll learn later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah. But no, I like Jean. Jean's whole thing here is like, no, I would have voted to destroy this on sight, but it's actually being with you people that have taught me hope and taught to maybe trust in things without.
Right.
I love this whole issue is John doubting in himself. Like, he doesn't know, he doesn't think he deserves to be the chairman, the leader here. Yeah,
it's all about his doubt. And then, of course, at the end of the issue, in fact, Lex actually beats the shit out of Vandal. He's just bashing his head in with...
Pretty brutal.
Yeah, so
proper
what
violent.
I loved here was you have, like, a man who was evolved by a meteor, right, that landed to become Vandal Savage, and then you have the world's smartest man. And how does he murder him? In the most caveman way possible. Yeah. Like, it's just primitive, and it's brutal. And he beats him to death with a doorknob. Now, I'm going to imagine, like, the one thing that can kill Savage is that, it's a piece from the meteorite, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
But, because they kind of tease it, but he built that doorknob out of the one thing that can kill him. So
basically they just make the choice to let the thing hit Earth. And it's just as Savage is dying, Savage seemingly sends out a strong psychic message. Like, it's like all of the knowledge that Savage had because he's accumulated so much over his centuries and centuries of living. It beams out, and John senses it. It gets hit with like a wave, and we see a bunch of stuff that's coming from this. I'm actually just going to kind of go through this panel by panel because there's so much in here.
There is, yeah.
His mind reaches out all of his secrets. Revealing truths, we see a green hand and a white hand, as in white skin, kind of touch, almost like someone's in prison and they're both touching the other side of the glass, right?
Yeah.
There's a moment there's a moment that looks like Lexi's armor strangling someone, who looks like it could be Starman, but it's really
it looks very much like Ted Knight, Starman, with the fin on his head, but it could literally be anybody.
Yeah, but it does mention though that this is sins committed in the past. This is past tense. This is something that Lex has done already in the past.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it says abominations unearthed, and we see like a hand with a bright light, as if something's coming up from the ground.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We see what was coming, new armies raised across space, and we have purple light, pink purple light.
And there's figures coming out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's the ultraviolet,
stuff.
lantern tease, absolutely. And maybe the one before that's the some of that new Speed Force stuff, the Stealth Force. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe one of these is that.
Also, well, I was gonna say the very first one has to be in reference to John's origin with the Doctor. Who he have a heart attack to when he, beamed to Earth.
It makes sense. It makes sense to pull something like that in here as it's going through all these things. But most of these are teases for the future. They absolutely are.
The next one says Ancient Gods Revived, and I'm wondering, is that Highfather that what we were talking about?
There's a giant metal-looking vault that's opened, like a crypt almost.
And it looks like Darkseid. I don't think it is Darkseid considering what's going on in Odyssey, but maybe whoever Darkseid's precursor was in the Third World, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's Highfire because I don't think it would have Highfire at the start of the book like that if it was going to be him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, fair enough.
And then the final one, of course, is and beyond this, he saw the laughter with which evil would rise. Now, there's only one villain I think of when I think of laughter, but I don't think this is Joker related. Especially since we're seeing what essentially looks like the front of this flaming ball as it's happening. It may not be the same thing, admittedly.
No, it might not, but I do wonder if Joker is involved in some way. That's why Lex has him on the team.
Yeah. Well, here's the weird thing, is I don't think that this is in any way going to tie into Doomsday Clock. I think this is going to completely do its own thing, and then we'll catch up with Doomsday Clock at the end. However, I can't deny there's a bit of a yellow button vibe to this. There's like a sort of smile on this yellow sun looking thing.
There is, but also don't forget, Snyder also said Batman Who Laughs will be showing up and making appearances with Justice League. So,
Did he say that about Justice League specifically?
Well, I don't know about Justice League, but he said he's not done with Batman Who Laughs.
Yeah, he said there was plans for next October, but I don't think he said anything specifically about Justice League.
Did he say next October?
Yeah, it was a Halloween thing for next October, yeah.
Okay, well, never mind then.
This thing, I never got the fact that it didn't look like a smile to me. It looks like more wings. Like wings. I can see the mouth, but even then, I don't see smile. I see more of a opening to feed sort of thing.
If it's a smile, it looks like the Kool-Aid Man.
I mean, I can see a smile. I can see what you mean by wings, though. If it is wings,
yeah,
it made me automatically think of the Phoenix Force and go.
Yeah,
I know what you're doing, Snyder.
Your Phoenix Force thing comes a bit more overt when we're talking about wings here inside the flaming ball. Yeah, but obviously, I feel like everything on this page, like obviously the Lex thing's a mystery about the past. All the other stuff, I think, are teases about stuff that's coming up in this book over the next 4 or 5 arcs. I feel like that's what this is kind of doing. In fact, one of them might even be endgame stuff. I feel like a few of these will be stuff that are spread out over the course, and then one of them will probably be going to be the final of the entire thing, the event that comes at the end of all this in 2 years' time.
Well, I mean, we know he's got at least a 2-year plan, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, if you say 6 issues an arc. Right, this cover, and each one of these is one arc. So that's what 1 year covered. If you go with all these,
Well,
if
this
you
is
just
double
take them
shipping.
directly.
So we'll
Yeah,
get
exactly.
So we'll get through it. Yeah.
Yeah, so double shipping that those
Right.
4 arcs is 1 year, right?
They'll probably
Right.
they'll probably be spread out more than that though.
Yeah.
Because
No, that's
we know
fair.
the second arc is going to be Aquaman focused, and I mean one of these
Yeah.
might relate to that, but who knows? I can see them
Yeah,
being more
could
spread
be.
out. Because it would be kind of weird if it was like a checklist where arc 2 is about this one, arc 3 is about this one, arc 4 is about that one. Okay, we've done them all now.
Maybe you alternate.
Hmm.
Like one arc about one, then something else.
Well,
then
but
back
look,
to it.
don't forget what's going on with how they're doing the story. Every 4 issues we get a Doom
The Legion,
centric.
yeah.
Yeah, every 4 or
So-
5, I think. Yeah.
Can't call it Legion, Connor. There already is a Legion.
Well, of Doom, fine.
Legion of Doom, and then the best page of the book is Alien Jean looking at this giant. It's almost like a classical alien face in the sky.
And as
Or
someone
in
that's
space.
terrified of great alien iconography, I did not like that page.
I think it's fantastic. Obviously, that grey alien is often used as a it's a Martian, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the go-to thing that's been related to. So putting this in front of the DC Martian really works well.
Well, that's even the narration book says, and then he saw past us and saw at the end of the cry, and what he saw was himself alone. So the idea that he's faced with kind of the image of what people think of him before they meet him,
Yeah.
alone in space. It's a really pretty image. And it's basically, this is like the doubt comes back, and he's like, oh wait, no, there's something awful in this. We have to like not do this. But it's too late. The Justice League have gone. And it's funny that Lex says, "Oh, Jean, here we go in 3, 2, 1." So this rivalry that we've set up between Jean and Lex from No Justice, this is ticking over. The way it intercuts between the two stories in this book as well, it almost feels that dichotomy between the two of them is going to play a big factor, at least in this first arc, if not the.
It is, and that
story
was
as a
one of the
whole.
best parts of No Justice, setting up.
It was.
So
No, I think all the
excited.
character stuff in here is great. It's just some of the concepts sometimes Snyder throws about willy-nilly. It's just like, okay, I'll just accept this, fine. But
Fair enough.
I'd like a bit more weight to it. Especially when it's involving planets, like the crust of a planet's coming apart. And then we blew up the moon to stop it. And then Swamp Thing reforms the planet. But we never see like a panel on the Earth of the crust coming back together or anything like that. No, it's just mentioned. It's happening.
Yeah. No, I get you.
But yeah, so...
I used to want to live in the DC universe. Now I'm not so sure.
Dear. So yeah, basically it ends with them saying, yeah, inside this flaming boy, didn't see hope, didn't see justice, didn't see good, he saw doom. So that leads us into the next issue. So Doom on Earth. Was this a longer issue? No,
It went a little bit.
it wasn't. It's actually the same as normal.
I don't think so. I think it's just because you've got a lot of the narration that really
Yeah.
it takes slightly longer to read than average.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't want to sound like I've been. I feel like I've sounded more negative than I actually am about it. I'm really excited and I like reading this a lot. I don't want to like. There's just some of these bigger ideas that he throws out that I don't want to give a pass to. Like I'm going to point out when I feel like this is just like he's just throwing ideas at me.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, it was good. Anytime I can see the quintessence in Justice League 1,000,000 in one book, like that's pretty cool.
I think the character stuff in particular is what I like, and I like the Justice League as a team feeling like a big deal. And I think the threat of a Legion of Doom with this roster is very exciting.
I think that's the thing that makes it feel like it's all these big ideas, but it also feels very personal for Jean. All the stuff that it's dealing with is.
Well, that's
all,
what makes it work
his
for
doubts
me.
and fears.
That's what was missing from the book in general before, when it was Hitch and whatever. So. And that's what I like about it. That's what makes it work. If you took that away and it was just the big ideas, I probably wouldn't like it that much.
Fair enough. I'd probably still be into it, but that definitely improves it.
So now Justice League. I guess we should rate the book. Out of 10. Matt, what are you giving it?
This is an 8.5.
Cool. Connor.
I'm going big. I'm going 9.5.
Oofed. I'm going with a straight 8. I think the art is good. We didn't mention the art much, but I don't think it's. I'm looking forward more to Jimenez's issues than I am Chung's.
Me too.
I think Jimenez does facial structures a little bit better, but it's undeniable that Chung's big grand schemes like the dragon or the face at the end are just phenomenal.
Just feels like Chung's meant for like a fantasy book, you know, not just because of the dragon, but just the way that the story's told. Like the layouts are cool. Like you get to that layout that's got the entire Justice League across it,
and then Manhunter across the bottom.
Yeah, that's super cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. So now 8 out of 10. Art's solid. I like what it's doing with the characters and the big story. I'm excited about what's going forward. But yeah, just some of the Snydery. Just here's a big idea with some exposition to explain it really quickly out of nowhere.
Just a small little note on the the variant cover, the Jim Lee one. I thought the final one was really ugly, but looking at the pencils, it looks fantastic. I don't know who inked and colored it. I don't know if it was him that did it or someone else, but it just looks it loses something with the final image for me.
Oh, that's fair. I think Jim Lee sometimes does a bit too much with his line work. Like he almost doesn't trust the colorist to.
Yeah.
Maybe because it looks fantastic in pencils.
Yeah.
Still a little bit too dark in pencils for me.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, but I mean, he decided to do a rain scene. Talk about line work.
Yeah.
I think what was interesting about this book though is that I feel like it's going to give us a lot to chew on every couple of weeks.
Yep.